Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating and, honestly, deeply dramatic story drawn straight from the Dhammapada stories. It's this incredibly powerful philosophical case study about cause and effect, human nature, and the totally unexpected consequences of our actions. The story is famously known as The Unfortunate Hunter.
But before we get to the core events of the story, I want you to ask yourself something. Can a simple superstition actually be deadly? Like, can a completely harmless belief, just an unfounded fear, spiral so far out of control that it literally leads to a tragic demise? I know, it sounds like the plot of a psychological thriller, right? But it's actually an ancient lesson about the mind. Okay, let's dive into this.
So, meet our protagonist, Koka. He's a local hunter, and our story kicks off early one morning. You can totally picture the scene, right? The sun is just coming up, the air is crisp, and Koka is heading out with his trusted pack of hunting dogs. He's fully prepared and totally expecting a successful day of tracking and catching game. But then, the entire trajectory of his day shifts before the hunt even really begins. He sees what he thinks is a bad omen. While walking out, Koka spots a monk on his morning alms round. Now, Koka is a highly superstitious guy, and he is really not particularly fond of monks. In his mind, simply crossing paths with this monk is a terrible omen. He firmly believes this chance encounter is going to curse his hunt and bring him absolutely nothing but bad luck.
Well, Koka's fears seemingly materialized right into reality. It becomes the ultimate self-fulfilling prophecy. His game bag remains completely empty for the entire day. Zero. No matter how hard he tries, no matter how much ground he and his dogs cover out there in the forest, he catches absolutely nothing. The bad luck he worried about that morning became his inescapable reality by the afternoon.
Part 1. Seeking Cruel Revenge. So heading home, Koka's frustration is just completely boiling over, and guess who he happens to come across on the path? The exact same monk from earlier in the day. Yep, a second encounter. Now, instead of maybe reflecting on his own hunting skills or just accepting that, hey, sometimes we all have a bad day, Koka's anger desperately needs a target. He decides right then and there that this innocent monk is the sole reason his hunt was ruined. And this misplaced anger leads to a horrific decision. Koka decides he's going to take his revenge. And he doesn't just yell at the guy or make a threat. No, he actively sets his pack of wild, snarling, snapping hunting dogs directly onto the monk. This is a massive, massive escalation. From simple frustration to outright malicious violence against a completely harmless person. The narrative immediately shifts into high suspense here. The poor innocent monk, suddenly facing a pack of trained killers, is forced to flee for his absolute life. He just barely manages to scramble up into the branches of a nearby tree. He's sitting up there, panting and trapped, but safely just out of the dog's reach, while the whole pack snaps wildly at the trunk below. Part 2. The Fatal Yellow Robe. Now, what's really interesting about this is how perfectly we can break down the chaotic, rapid-fire sequence of events that follows. Let's walk through these steps chronologically. Step 1. Koka walks up to the tree, but not to call off his dogs. Instead, he starts maliciously poking the soles of the trapped monk's feet with the sharp end of his hunting arrow. Step 2. The monk, understandably, jumps about in the branches to avoid getting pierced. Step 3. Because of this frantic movement trying to keep his balance, the monk's yellow robe comes completely undone, slips off, and falls right down over Koka below. Step 4. The dogs attack. The dramatic irony here is incredibly dark and, frankly, striking. The dogs, whipped into this violent frenzy by Koka himself, see the yellow robe fall to the ground. They don't realize their master is trapped underneath it. Mistaking their own master for the monk they were commanded to kill, the dogs attack mercilessly. In a terrible, twisted twist of fate, Koka is actually mauled to death by his very own pack. Part 3. The Guilt of the Monk. This highlights a really stark moral contrast between our two characters. On one side, we have Koka's malicious, totally unprovoked intent to harm an innocent person. On the other side, we have the surviving monk. And he isn't feeling relieved or vindicated up there. Actually, scratch that, he's fraught with deep, misplaced guilt. He actually feels it because his robe slipped and fell. It's his fault that the hunter was killed. Consumed by all this guilt, the distraught monk knows he just cannot resolve this heavy moral dilemma on his own. So he goes to seek the Buddha's advice. He desperately needs to know, is he karmically responsible for the hunter's gruesome demise? Part 4. Karma in the Fine Dust. So, the crucial point is how the concept of karma actually operates in this specific context. The Buddha assures the monk that he is absolutely not at fault. Karma is the escapable result of trying to bring harm to someone who has done no wrong. Kokosana tried to hurt an innocent man. Therefore, the Buddha explains, Kokosana's unfortunate death was the direct result of his own malicious actions, definitely not the monk's slipping robe. The Buddha then shares a truly powerful piece of wisdom, recorded as Dhammapada verse 125. Let me read this exactly as it appears. Like fine dust thrown against the wind, evil falls back upon the fool who offends a harmless man, one pure and innocent. And this brilliantly illustrates the spiritual physics of the story. It's like, just as you cannot throw fine dust against a strong wind without it blinding you, Koka's unprovoked violence blew directly back onto himself. We've unpacked a truly dramatic and layered story today, but the core lesson extends far, far beyond this one hunter and his dogs. I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. If your actions were dust thrown into the wind, what would blow back on you? It's a pretty profound question to carry with you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep analyzing the cause and effect in your own life.